Hi,
Hello.
we're back and glad to have you join us. What we wanted to talk about today was the pursuit of happiness. And of course, we're all about food and health and that. And so, just as a context for it and an example of what we're talking about, just the idea of eating. We love to eat and we love good food and we love our health. And all of those things, as I was reflecting on it this morning, all of those things have embodied in them this pursuit of happiness. If I'm hungry, I want to eat. And why do I want to eat? It's because I'm going to feel better. I'm going to be happier. And what is it about the kinds of food that we eat? Well, we choose the foods that make us feel best, happiest, you might say. It's kind of like this pursuit of happiness is embedded at the core of almost every impulse we have to do what we do.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that, if you look at it closely, it seems like this pursuit of happiness in finding it outside ourselves is the basis of all addictive patterns. Eating more than the body really needs so we can have a certain feeling. That becomes a habit, and as it becomes a larger and larger habit, it becomes the basis of an addictive pattern, using food to create pleasure.
Yeah, it seems like the basis of addiction is the fact that when we do certain things, we feel better. And that feel better is the result of a neurotransmitter, dopamine, getting generated. So that's generated by a lot of different things, food being one, and high calories, high fat, salty things. They really spike the dopamine almost. I mean, it lights up the same part of the brain as snorting cocaine. So, yeah, it can get to where if we're pursuing the activity for the happiness, then we're going after the dopamine, and that overrides our natural instincts to stop eating when we're full.
Yeah, and as I look back on my life in pursuing happiness, which I certainly did a lot of and have done, I don't know what you feel, but every time I would come to realizing something or achieving a goal that I thought was going to make a big difference in my life, there was a momentary pleasure, but it was very short lived. And all of a sudden, there was the realization, well, what I thought was here isn't really here. And the reason I see now for that is because looking outside for fulfillment never delivers long-term fulfillment. It's just not designed that way, fortunately. So, where is the source of real happiness?
Well, I guess what I would say along those lines too is that we're kind of making a distinction between pleasure and happiness. And we get that confused in our mind. It's like I eat something and I could say this really makes me happy, but I would say more accurately, this is creating pleasure in my body. And when we think about pursuing happiness, what my mind seems to always have me uh, being drawn toward is finding a state of stability, a state of well-being, a state of happiness that's just content in itself, not kind of a pleasure thing, because the pleasure things, they seem to come and go. But the happiness that we're talking about is that kind of, oh, and they rode off into the sunset. you know, it's just like they lived happily ever after. That wasn't associated with the latest meal or the latest purchase or the latest whatever we do. That keeps us going, and there's a place for that. That works out well in our survival mechanism. That's what that's all about. Keep us fed, keep us warm, keep us having babies, doing all those things. There's a place for it. But recognizing the difference between those short-term pleasurable experiences that we're drawn to and what seems to be a deeper craving, this pursuit of happiness that is a state of mind that is there regardless of what's going on in our activities. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and later in these later years of my life, I have had the experience of knowing in every fiber of my being that that happiness that I was always pursuing exists within, not out there in something to go after, but in allowing the personal mind and its chatter noisiness to settle, just to relax for a moment. Allow that mind to settle, and then I connect with the being, the true being that we all are. And that place of connection is the source of real well-being.
Yeah, that sense of stability, a sense of contentment. Yeah, I think about going on vacation and what that used to mean to me, because I could kind of project myself off into Hawaii or Mexico or wherever, Europe. And it's like, oh, that'll be so great. And I recognize that part of this idea that vacation brings me some happiness is because when I go on vacation, just what Connie's talking about, I let my mind settle down. I kind of put all that mental chatter aside for a moment. And what I'm left with, regardless of where I am, in fact, even if I'm sitting at my desk thinking about going to Hawaii, I've got it, don't I? Just in thinking about, oh, what's it like to be on vacation, my mind settles and I start to feel what it is that I'm looking for. The problem is I've got the dots connected that I need to be in Hawaii to experience this, which I've just proven I don't have to be, because right at my desk, I begin to feel it just thinking about it. And the nature of the thinking that brings me to that place of happiness, that place of contentment, that place of peace and ease, is that my mind settled down. I allowed the necessities or responsibilities of life to just be held lightly, instead of, I've got to fix this. Oh, this is going to get me, better get this done right away. All of that mental activity distracts me from the fact that all the time within me, there is this space that is at peace. Because it says the state of least excitation of consciousness. In order to have this active mind, I've got to start from a state that's less active. That's down there all the time. So that's, I think, what we're trying to get across today, is the fact that the happiness we're always pursuing, often attaching it to something outside, food, new car, new relationship, whatever. All these things are wonderful, but they come and go. And beyond that, or beneath that, however you want to look at it, there is this possibility to experience the happiness that life is. And here's a little something for you. The great thing is that that even exists in the midst of drama and trauma. And the more we become familiar with the fact that my experience of what's going on outside is one thing, and that there is underneath that a state of well-being that's untouched by everything that's occurring outside. What's interesting is that even when things happen that don't go according to the way I would like them to happen, I can still have that sense of, I'm okay, I need to deal with this. We got to get a tow truck in here and a new fender or whatever, but it doesn't have to upset Doesn't have to completely distract me from that foundation of least excited state of mind, which is really who we really are. And so the neat thing about that is as we familiarize ourselves with that stability, that space within that is always there and not so excited, is that we then actually have access to respond better to those situations that don't go the way we like them to.
Yeah, and you can explore this with food. It's so fun. So say you know you have a tendency to overdo it, and you know your body doesn't really love that. You want something that you know you don't need. So take that moment of perceived difficulty and relax. Get quiet. Let that personal thinking mind just settle down and ask your body if it would like to enjoy that food now. And you will connect with your deeper intelligence through that very simple little inquiry into the, should I eat this food in the moment? It's that simple. And that in and of itself, if you do that several times when you have a desire for food that you know you don't need, dissolves that habit, dissolves that tendency toward it becoming addictive. So simple.
There we go. So speaking of food, the recipe this week?
Yeah, what is the recipe?
Tomato potato bake.
It's so good and simple to make. We just made it from having things left over that we needed to use up. And we really like it. It is delicious. So take a look at the recipe and see if it's something you'd like to explore. I think you'll be pleased.
Yeah, thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, thank you.